What if everything you thought you knew about good and evil was wrong? Before time began, a cosmic battle raged in the heavens. At its center stood Jesus, knowing what was to come. He saw Lucifer's rebellion before it happened. He could have stopped it, but he didn't. Why? The answer will shake your understanding of free will, evil, and God's plan to its core. Get ready for a journey that will challenge your faith and open your eyes to a powerful truth. It all starts with a question you've probably never considered. The truth about Christ's role in heaven's war isn't just mind-blowing, it's life-changing. Heaven was a magnificent sight. The air shimmered with golden light, and angelic voices filled the atmosphere. Among all the angels, Lucifer stood out. His beauty was beyond compare, his wings shining like polished gems. God had made him perfect, giving him wisdom and power beyond measure. But deep inside Lucifer, something started to change. At first, it was just a tiny feeling of discontent. He was already the highest-ranking angel, right next to God. But as he gazed upon the Almighty's throne, he began to wonder, "Why can't I sit there?" He thought, "Aren't I beautiful enough, wise enough, powerful enough?" These ideas didn't come all at once. Lucifer's fall was a slow, gradual process. In the beginning, he pushed these thoughts away, shocked at his own audacity, but they kept returning, growing stronger each time. God had given Lucifer authority over the other angels. He was their leader, their shining example. But now, that position felt insufficient. He started to see the other angels as lesser beings. "Why should I bow to anyone?" he asked himself. "Even God?" As pride took root in Lucifer's heart, his relationship with God changed. The closeness they once shared began to feel like a burden. He started to resent the very being who had created him and loved him most. Here's the shocking part. God knew. He saw the darkness growing in Lucifer's heart long before it manifested in rebellion. Yet, he allowed it to happen. Why? While Lucifer was plotting his rebellion, Jesus wasn't just watching. He was working on a plan that would span millennia, ultimately leading to the cross and the defeat of sin and death. Think of it like this. Jesus is like an author writing a story. He knows every character, every twist and turn, from the beginning to the end. He knew about Lucifer's fall, about the temptation in Eden, about his own birth in Bethlehem. He saw it all. And still, he let Lucifer's pride grow. Not because he was powerless to stop it, but because he had a greater purpose in mind. God's plan wasn't just reactive, responding to Lucifer's rebellion. It was proactive, set in motion before the world's creation. As Ephesians 1:4 says,
For he chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight.
So while Lucifer was falling, Jesus was preparing. He was laying the groundwork for a redemption story that would echo through eternity. But why create Lucifer if he knew this would happen? It's because God values free will. He didn't create robots or puppets, but beings with the ability to choose, to love him freely. And with that freedom comes the potential for rebellion. Lucifer's fall wasn't a failure in God's plan. It was a tragic but necessary part of a much bigger story, a story of love, redemption, and ultimate victory. While Lucifer plotted in the shadows, a greater power stood waiting. Jesus, the eternal Son, knew every move before it was made. But why didn't he act? The answer reveals a plan more intricate than we could ever imagine. Before time itself began, Jesus existed in perfect unity with God the Father. Colossians 1:16 tells us that all things were created through Him and for Him. This meant Jesus had ultimate authority over everything in creation, including the angels. As Lucifer's heart began to turn away from God, Jesus watched. He saw the pride growing, the desire for power taking root, and he knew exactly where it would lead. Jesus felt the pain of betrayal, yet remained silent. Why? Because Jesus was playing a long game that Lucifer couldn't comprehend. Like a master chess player, he saw moves far beyond the present moment. God's knowledge goes beyond just knowing what will happen. Psalm 139:2-4 says,
You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely.
Before Lucifer even had his first rebellious thought, Jesus already knew about it. He had already planned how to use it for something greater. Revelation 13:8 talks about the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. This suggests that God's plan of salvation through Jesus' sacrifice was set in motion before the world was even created. So while Lucifer thought he was making his own choices, he was actually playing right into God's master plan, a plan that would ultimately lead to the defeat of evil and the redemption of humanity. Jesus knew that crushing Lucifer's rebellion immediately wouldn't solve the real problem. It wouldn't address the issue of sin and free will. It wouldn't provide a way for humanity to be reconciled to God. So he chose a harder path, a path that would lead him from the glories of heaven to the humiliation of the cross. A path that would allow him to defeat evil not through raw power, but through sacrificial love. As Lucifer's rebellion brewed, Jesus was already looking ahead. He saw beyond the fall, beyond the flood, beyond the cross, to the ultimate victory that was coming. He saw you and me, reconciled to God, our sins forgiven. But what if Lucifer's rebellion wasn't just a problem to be solved, but a crucial part of a grander design? The answer might surprise you. The cosmic chess match. As the cosmic chess match between Jesus and Lucifer was about to begin, the fate of all creation hung in the balance. Jesus, in his infinite wisdom, had already set the board long before Lucifer made his first move. The rebellion in heaven wasn't a surprise to God. It was part of his plan all along. God's sovereignty is so vast that even the darkest evil can't escape his control. He doesn't cause evil, but he can use it for good. Jesus, standing at the right hand of the Father, saw beyond the immediate conflict. His gaze was fixed on a victory so complete that it would shake the foundations of reality itself. Every scheme Lucifer could dream up, Jesus had already countered. It's like playing chess against someone who can see every possible move you might make, a trillion steps ahead. The sun of God's plan stretched across eternity, intricate beyond our wildest imagination. Each thread of history, each life, each choice, all part of a tapestry so vast we can barely glimpse its edges. At the center of it all, the cross, the moment when everything would change. Lucifer, blinded by pride, couldn't see the true nature of the game. He thought he was outmaneuvering God himself, but his arrogance was his downfall. Every action he took, thinking he was opposing God, was actually playing right into Jesus' hands. Why would Jesus allow this rebellion to happen at all? The answer reveals something profound about God's character. He allowed it because he knew that through this conflict, an even greater good would emerge. The war in heaven was about you and me, about free will, love, and the very nature of good and evil. Jesus saw how he could use even Lucifer's worst actions to bring about ultimate good. Think about Joseph in the Bible. His brothers sold him into slavery, intending harm, but years later, Joseph tells them,
"You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives."
Genesis 50:20. The cross of Jesus is the ultimate example. The worst act of evil in history, the murder of the sinless Son of God, became the means of salvation for all humanity. As Hebrews 2:10 says, "In bringing many sons and daughters to glory, it was fitting that God, for whom and through whom everything exists, should make the pioneer of their salvation perfect through what he suffered." God's sovereignty is so complete that even the darkest moments of history serve his ultimate plan. This cosmic chess match reveals the depth of God's wisdom and the unstoppable nature of his love for us. The fall of the morning star. The cosmic chess match between Jesus and Lucifer was about to reach its climax. This wasn't just any battle. It was a war that would shake the very foundations of heaven itself. In a moment that would change everything, Lucifer's discontent finally boiled over into open rebellion. His pride had grown so great that he believed he could overthrow God himself. Lucifer wasn't alone in his treachery. He had been whispering his poisonous thoughts to other angels, and now a third of heaven's host stood with him, ready to wage war against their creator. The skies of heaven, once filled with peace, now crackled with the energy of impending conflict. On one side stood Lucifer and his followers, faces twisted with pride and anger. On the other, the archangel Michael led God's faithful angels, expressions resolute and determined. Then heaven erupted into chaos. The clash of angelic weapons echoed through the celestial realms. Light and darkness collided in a spectacular display of power. Brilliant flashes illuminated the battlefield as angelic swords clashed. The air itself seemed to tremble with the force of their combat. Jesus, the eternal Son of God, watched as the conflict unfolded. He saw every blow struck, every angel that fell. His heart ached with each moment. These weren't just random beings to him. They were his creation, loved since before time began. As the tide of battle turned against Lucifer and his rebels, Jesus witnessed their fall from grace. Revelation 12:7-9 describes this moment.
And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But he was not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven.
In that instant, Lucifer became Satan, the adversary of God and man. His beauty corrupted, his light extinguished. As he fell, dragging his followers with him, a new chapter in the cosmic struggle began. But why didn't Jesus stop this? He knew it would happen. He could have prevented all the pain and suffering that would follow. The answer reveals a profound truth about God's plan and the nature of free will. Jesus values something even more than peace in heaven. He values free will. The ability to choose, to love freely, is at the core of what it means to be created in God's image. If Jesus had simply destroyed Lucifer at the first sign of rebellion, he would have been enforcing obedience through power, not love. Instead, Jesus allowed the rebellion to play out. He let Lucifer and the other angels make their choice, even though he knew the heartbreaking consequences. This wasn't weakness on Jesus' part. It was an act of profound love and respect for the free will of his creation. In allowing this rebellion, Jesus set the stage for an even greater demonstration of God's love. The fall of Lucifer was just one move in a much larger plan, a plan that would ultimately lead to the cross and the redemption of humanity. the garden, and the serpent. The war in heaven was over, but the real battle was just beginning. In a lush garden on a young planet, evil was about to strike at the very heart of God's creation. But why would Jesus allow this to happen? Satan, still smarting from his defeat in heaven, saw an opportunity. He slithered into the perfect world God had created, his eyes fixed on a new target: humanity. These fragile beings made in God's image were about to face a test they couldn't possibly understand. The serpent's lies in the garden echoed his own rebellion. He questioned God's command, just as he had questioned God's authority in heaven. Did God really say, "You must not eat from any tree in the garden"? He asked Eve, his voice dripping with doubt. Eve hesitated, but the serpent pressed on. "You will not certainly die," he hissed, "for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." This temptation mirrored Lucifer's own fall. The desire to be like God, which had corrupted him, now threatened humanity. Adam and Eve reached out, took the fruit, and everything changed. Jesus watched as sin entered his perfect world. He could have stopped it with a single word, but he didn't. Why? Because this tragedy played a crucial role in his grand design. The Son of God's heart broke for his beloved creation. He had crafted Adam and Eve with his own hands, breathed life into them, walked with them in the cool of the day. Now, in an instant, that perfect relationship was shattered. But even in this dark moment, hope shone through. Genesis 3:15 gives us a hint of what was to come.
And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel.
This verse, known as the Proto-Evangelium, or First Gospel, was a promise. It meant that even though evil had entered the world, it wouldn't have the final say. The offspring of the woman, Jesus himself, would one day crush the serpent's head. The fall of humanity set the stage for the greatest act of love the universe would ever see. Jesus, in his infinite wisdom, chose to let this unfold. He knew that through this fall, he could demonstrate the depths of his love in a way that would shake the foundations of reality. This doesn't mean that God causes evil. Rather, it shows his ability to bring good out of even the worst situations. It's like he's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. He sees moves that we can't even imagine. How might history have been different if Adam and Eve had resisted temptation? We'll never know. But we do know that God's plan of redemption was set in motion from the very beginning. The cross, God's checkmate. The moment had come. Satan thought he had won. Jesus, the Son of God, hung on a Roman cross, beaten and bloody. The enemy's plan seemed to be working perfectly. But what Satan didn't know was that this was exactly what Jesus had been waiting for. Since before time began, Jesus had been planning for this very moment. The cross wasn't just a response to evil. It was God's master plan all along. But why would God choose such a brutal symbol as his checkmate? The cross was about transforming the very nature of evil itself. Jesus took on the full weight of all the darkness that had begun with Lucifer's rebellion. Every act of pride, every moment of betrayal, every sin committed by humanity, Jesus bore it all. Jesus defeated Satan through sacrificial love. It was a move so unexpected, it shook the foundations of hell itself. Picture Satan's face as his supposed victory crumbled before his eyes. The Apostle John tells us, "The Son of God was revealed for this purpose, to destroy the works of the devil." 1 John 3:8b. This was a moment when that purpose was fulfilled in the most extraordinary way possible. Remember the promise God made in the Garden of Eden? He said the offspring of the woman would crush the serpent's head. Well, this was that moment. The very act meant to destroy Jesus became his greatest triumph. The cross, a symbol of shame and defeat, was transformed into the ultimate victory. Jesus' death was just the beginning. His resurrection undid all the damage that had started in Eden. The power of sin and death was broken. A new covenant was established, offering hope to all of humanity. Suddenly, Satan's rebellion took on a whole new meaning. What he intended for evil, God used for an even greater display of his glory. It's like Joseph said to his brothers in Genesis 50:20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." The cross became the cosmic battlefield where Jesus defeated evil once and for all. But here's what most people miss. Jesus didn't just conquer evil, he transformed it. The very evil directed at him became the means for ultimate good and redemption for humanity. When Jesus uttered his final word on the cross, Tetelestai, which means "it is finished," he wasn't admitting defeat. He was declaring victory. The battle against evil had been won. Death itself had been conquered. This wasn't just a victory for Jesus. It was a victory for all of us. Through his sacrifice, Jesus provided a way for humanity to be redeemed and restored. He opened the door for us to be reconciled with God, showcasing his glory in the process. The cross wasn't just about dealing with past sin. It was about establishing a new reality for the future. Jesus' sacrifice set in motion a chain of events that would ultimately lead to the complete eradication of evil from the universe. The modern battle. The battle rages on, but the tides are turning. Satan's rebellion continues here on earth, yet his days are numbered. As Revelation 12:12 warns,
The devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short.
this cosmic conflict is hurtling towards its climax, and the enemy is desperate. Jesus is coming back, and this time, he's not a humble carpenter. Revelation paints a vivid picture of Christ's return. I saw heaven standing open, and there before me was a white horse, whose rider is called Faithful and True. With justice he judges and wages war. This is the conquering king, coming to settle accounts once and for all. His eyes will blaze like fire, many crowns will rest on his head, and he'll be dressed in a robe dipped in blood. An angel will descend with the key to the bottomless pit, binding Satan for 1,000 years. God is saying, enough is enough. Your time is up. Christ isn't just defeating evil, he's establishing his kingdom. Revelation 21 describes it. I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. No more tears, no more death, no more mourning or pain. Everything that went wrong in Eden will be set right. The curse that has haunted humanity since the fall will finally be broken. Even those who rebelled will acknowledge Christ's victory. Philippians 2:10-11 declares,
At the name of Jesus, every knee should bow, in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and every tongue acknowledge that Jesus Christ is Lord.
This includes Satan and his fallen angels. Jesus is undoing all the damage caused by sin and death. Every heartache, every broken relationship, every disease, all of it will be erased. As Paul proclaims, death has been swallowed up in victory. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? But we don't have to wait for Christ's return to experience His victory. We can participate in it daily by loving our enemies, forgiving those who hurt us, and sharing the good news of God's love. Every act of kindness is a blow against the darkness. This cosmic drama isn't just about the future. It's about your life right now. The choices you make today matter eternally. Will you align yourself with Christ's coming kingdom? The universe will finally see the truth. God's way of love triumphs over pride and rebellion. Where sin increased, grace abounded all the more. God's redemptive plan will be revealed in all its glory. The very rebellion that threatened to tear the cosmos apart becomes the backdrop for displaying God's unfathomable love and wisdom. Jesus' victory on the cross isn't just history. It's alive in your daily choices. When you choose love over hate, forgiveness over bitterness, you're part of this ongoing story. The real battle is in your heart. Each day, you face Lucifer's choice. Trust God's plan or try to take control. Your decisions shape eternity. What will your chapter look like? Will you stand firm in faith or falter in doubt? Remember, we wrestle against principalities, against powers. Ephesians 6:12. How will you fight this unseen battle today? Your choices matter. They're writing your eternal story. What will it be? But wait. Just when we think this cosmic battle reaches its peak, there's another stunning chapter that will leave you speechless. Remember that angel with the key to the bottomless pit we just mentioned? Well, there's so much more to this story than meets the eye. This mysterious angel goes by a name that sends chills down your spine: Abaddon. Think about it. God chose this specific angel for the most important prison duty in history, locking up Satan himself for 1,000 years. But who is this powerful being? What special powers did God give them? And why were they chosen for this incredible task? The story of Abaddon will blow your mind. We're talking about one of God's most powerful warriors, hand-picked for a mission that would change everything. And trust us, what happens next is absolutely incredible. Want to discover the untold story of God's dark angel who imprisoned Satan? Click on the video appearing on your screen right now. You won't believe what we found in the Bible about this mysterious figure. Don't miss this. Click now to continue this amazing journey.